The first sign wasn't lipstick on a collar. It wasn't a late-night text or a hotel receipt. It was a toothbrush, a second toothbrush, in our bathroom, sitting in the ceramic cup we got from a flea market in Oregon. The one she said was so us. I stared at it for a full minute before touching it. Navy blue, medium bristles, definitely not mine. I always use soft, always green, and this one was wet. That was Thursday. On Friday, the power went out, just our house. Only ours, circuit breaker untouched. When I called the electric company, they said someone had canceled the account. On Saturday, my favorite mug disappeared from the cabinet. Not broken, not misplaced, just gone. The one with the stupid owl on it that she always hated. And then came Sunday. Sunday was when I found out I'd been erased, not just forgotten, not ignored, erased. Our shared Spotify, logged out and changed, my name on the mailbox, replaced with a paper label that just read C. Whitmore, her maiden name. The spare key under the fake rock, gone. Fake rock also gone. And her. She was still there, still smiling, still acting like everything was fine. She asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market. The farmer's market. Like I wasn't slowly losing my grip on reality. So I asked her, deadpan, whose toothbrush is in our bathroom. She blinked, smiled, then said, "You're imagining things again." I wasn't. And on Monday, I'd prove it, even if it destroyed me. Monday started with rain, because of course it did. That soft, spiteful drizzle Seattle is famous for. I didn't sleep. Just lay on the edge of the bed, stiff as a corpse, listening to Calla breathe like nothing had shifted. Like I hadn't discovered a ghost living in our house, disguised as a toothbrush. When she left for work, in a rush, with barely a goodbye, I didn't go to my job. I stayed home. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for an hour. Not exaggerating, 1 full hour, watching myself, not grooming, not thinking, just watching. And I had this terrifying, vivid thought. What if she's right? What if I really am going crazy? Then, at 10:13 a.m., my reflection tilted its head a split second later than I did. That's when I knew I needed help. Not therapy. Though, yeah, I probably do. I needed proof. Solid, irrefutable, no way she can gaslight it evidence, not to make her stay. Not even for revenge. Just to make sense of what was happening to me. I started by checking our trash, which if you've never done it before, I don't recommend. There's no lower moment for a man than crouching by a kitchen bin, peeling open old grocery receipts like they're sacred scrolls. But then I found something. Buried under a soggy receipt for overpriced bagels and a half-used sheet mask was a crumpled, folded napkin. Hotel Excelsior, room 708, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. It had a heart drawn next to it. Calla doesn't draw hearts. At least she didn't. Not for me. My heart rate shot through the ceiling. My mouth tasted metallic. I Googled the hotel. Boutique. Not cheap. Not somewhere you book for a drink. I stared at that napkin like it might explode. Then I did what any emotionally unhinged, sleep-deprived, middle-aged technical writer would do. I booked a room across the street. The same night. Same time. But first, I needed to know who Wesley was. And that's where this story takes a turn I wasn't prepared for. Because Wesley wasn't some guy from her gym, or some coworker, or an old flame. No, Wesley was something else entirely. And I found out in the most humiliating way possible. I don't know what I expected. A gym selfie? A thread of flirty emails? Some random guy's cologne lingering on her scarf? Instead, I got an email confirmation, hidden in the promotions tab of her inbox, not deleted, not even archived, just buried like it wasn't worth covering up. It was from a counseling service, marriage therapy, except I never signed us up. Calla had booked 3 sessions under a joint name, W. Whitmore. The W was the giveaway, Wesley. Except I clicked the profile. Wesley wasn't a man. Wesley was a woman. A licensed couples counselor. I sat there blinking at the screen like an idiot. I almost laughed. The toothbrush. Probably hers. The napkin. Still suspicious, but maybe just a stupid coincidence. Maybe I really was cracking under the weight of my own insecurities. But the illusion only lasted 4 minutes. Because then I did something that still makes my stomach twist. I Googled the address Calla had listed under our emergency contact for that same account. It wasn't our house. It wasn't my phone number. It wasn't even in our city. It was a condo in Capitol Hill, registered to a woman named Daphne Whitmore. I had never heard that name in my life. And under relationship to client, it said spouse, not partner, not roommate, spouse. Suddenly, the ground under me didn't feel real. I opened our filing cabinet, the one with all the boring grown-up stuff, taxes, warranties, mortgage papers. I rifled through every folder looking for our marriage license, and it wasn't there. Now you might be wondering, how the hell do you lose your marriage license? I was wondering the same thing, and then I realized I'd never actually seen it, ever. We had a backyard wedding. It was casual. Our friend officiated. We signed the papers, or at least I thought we did. But now I wasn't sure of anything. Was I married? Was I legally married? Who was Daphne Whitmore? Was Calla living some double life? The questions started multiplying like roaches in the dark. And yet, in the middle of all this insanity, I still planned to go to the hotel on Saturday. Because despite everything I'd found, I still hadn't seen her lie. Not directly. Not with my own eyes. And for some stupid reason, I needed that. The hotel was far nicer than I expected. Velvet chairs in the lobby, soft jazz humming from invisible speakers, bellboys who looked like they'd rather be auditioning for indie films. I checked into my room across the street around 5 p.m., then sat at the window for 2 straight hours with the binoculars I'd borrowed from my neighbor Rick, the kind of guy who didn't ask questions if you offered him a six-pack. At 7:08 p.m., Calla arrived. I saw her step out of a car I didn't recognize, not a rideshare. It had no decals, but too clean to be hers. She looked composed, hair tied back neatly, black coat, heels I hadn't seen before. She wasn't wearing her usual oversized sweater or the scarf she always borrowed from me when she wanted to be cozy. No, this was a different Calla, businesslike, almost cold. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight into the hotel like she'd done it 1,000 times. I waited. She didn't come out. At 7:41 p.m., I caved and went inside. I knew the front desk guy wasn't going to hand me a room key to 708 if I asked directly, so I improvised. Told him I was a local videographer hired to capture a surprise proposal. Room 708, I whispered, showing him a fake calendar app with a big red heart over today's date. He hesitated, then shrugged. Seattle hospitality, I guess. He handed me a card without a word. I took the elevator up, heart pounding, palms soaked. I didn't even know what I was expecting anymore. Catching her mid-cheat. A confrontation. Closure. What I found was neither. I slid the card into the door lock. It blinked green. Click. The room was dark, lit only by a dim amber lamp in the corner. I stepped inside slowly, trying not to breathe too loud. The first thing I noticed was the silence. The second thing was the lack of a bed. Room 708 had no bed, no TV, no minibar. It was completely empty except for a table in the center, with 2 chairs, and a thick brown folder placed exactly in the middle. I should have walked away, but of course I didn't. I opened the folder. Inside were documents, dozens of them, photocopies, some I recognized, my social security card, tax returns, insurance info, even printouts of text messages I hadn't seen in years. Stuff I'd sent to other people, not her, not Calla. I wasn't the subject of the file. I was the target. And written across the first page in red marker, all caps, was one word: asset. That was the moment I stopped thinking Calla was cheating, because it became very, very clear that this wasn't just about infidelity. This was about something else entirely, Something I didn't understand yet. Something much, much bigger. I didn't sleep after I left room 708. I couldn't. I walked straight back to my car and sat in the driver's seat until morning, staring out the windshield while gripping that thick folder like it might run away. None of it made sense. If Calla wasn't cheating, what was she doing? Who labeled me an asset? Why did someone have my childhood dental records and transcripts from a school I didn't even remember attending? Around 6:20 a.m., I drove home. She was already gone. No note, no text, no sign she'd even come back after the hotel. Just our kitchen, clean as usual, smelling faintly of eucalyptus. I walked through each room slowly, expecting something to jump out at me. A suitcase missing, a photo frame cracked, but everything looked normal. That was almost worse. I ended up in the hallway, staring at the thermostat. I don't know why. Maybe it was just that it was slightly crooked. I'd never noticed it before. And once you see something like that, a tiny stupid tilt, you can't unsee it. I pulled it off the wall. There was a tiny recorder behind it. Not a nanny cam, not a security sensor. A black box, the kind you'd see in a spy movie or maybe a Netflix doc about whistleblowers. It was wired into the wall, taped neatly in place like it belonged there. I didn't freak out. I didn't even move. I just stared at it while the quiet buzz of my refrigerator hummed behind me, reminding me that life was still pretending to be normal. Then I did the dumbest thing I could do. I hit play, and I heard my own voice. Conversations I don't remember having. Private thoughts I'm almost positive I never said out loud. And then I heard Calla's voice too. But she wasn't talking to me. She was talking about me, like I was a patient, a subject, something to be observed. And the person she was talking to was named Daphne. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't even pretend. I sat in my car for 2 hours, parked 3 blocks from my own house, trying to figure out what to do. I kept replaying the voices from that recorder. My own voice, cold and mechanical, repeating things I never remembered saying. And Calla, talking about me like I was a malfunctioning program instead of her husband. There was something so detached in her tone, like I was just data she was collecting. But the way she said Daphne's name, calm, deliberate, that's what stuck with me. There was history in that name, familiarity. I needed answers, not theories, not spirals, real answers. When I finally went back into the house, I didn't stop to eat or sit down. I went straight to the garage, not to look for clues. I needed tools. I came back in with a flashlight, a rubber mallet, and a stud finder I hadn't touched in years. There's a wall in our hallway next to the laundry nook. It's never drawn my attention before, but when I looked closely, really looked, I noticed the paint was newer than the rest of the house, slightly glossier, subtle, but different. More importantly, the stud finder showed something off. The wall was hollow, but not like it should have been. There was a cavity behind it that was too deep, too tall. I measured it. It was the size of a closet, only we don't have a closet there. I tapped along the edge and felt where the drywall thinned. Then I started hammering. It took about 10 minutes to punch through. Behind the wall was a sealed space. Not dusty, not abandoned, but clean, maintained. A small windowless chamber with soundproofing foam on every side. There was a single chair in the middle. A padded medical-looking thing with straps at the arms and legs. And above it, a camera mounted to the ceiling, still glowing faintly with power. In the corner was a plastic crate. Inside it, photos. Hundreds of them. All of me. Sleeping, eating, driving, typing, even showering. My face just visible behind the steamed-up glass. Every part of my life cataloged, dated, time-stamped. And each photo had a yellow sticky note with a single letter number code. B17, G04, L19. I picked up one of me watching TV, slouched on the couch, popcorn in my lap. The sticky note read, D22, passive mode. I should have left the house right then. I should have called the cops, or burned it all down, or screamed until someone came to see what the hell I'd found. But I didn't. Instead, I sat in that chair, not strapped in, just sat, and stared at the camera for a full minute, like I expected it to speak, like maybe Calla was watching right then. And for the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I'd never considered. What if I'm not who I think I am? I found the key taped behind the bathroom mirror. It was sealed in a tiny Ziploc bag with a faded label, "Spare Wrench." But the key wasn't for any toolbox we owned. It was slim, numbered, and clearly meant for a storage unit. I didn't tell anyone I found it. Not that there was anyone left to tell. Later that night, I drove to the industrial district, where half the buildings look abandoned, and the other half are probably fake companies. It took 30 minutes of trial and error before I found the right storage facility. Broadline Depot in peeling white letters. No staff, just keypads and cameras and endless rows of rusted units. The key fit Unit 414. I rolled the door up and instantly froze. There was no junk, no cardboard boxes, no holiday decorations. It looked like a miniature lab. White walls, sealed cabinets, a single metal chair bolted to the ground, and against the back wall, a locked file drawer labeled AR, cycles 3 to 7. I pried it open with a crowbar I'd grabbed from the trunk. Inside were thick folders stuffed with documents. Scans of my medical tests, but nothing I remembered doing. Brainwave charts, blood work, sleep cycles. One labeled Response to Stressor, Marital Infidelity Simulation, made my throat go dry. Another folder was labeled simply Cycle 5, Breakdown. It had a photo clipped to the front. Me, sitting on a hospital bed, looking younger, paler, blank, eyes half open, like I wasn't really there. And stapled to the back of that photo was a single yellow sticky note with Calla's handwriting. It said, Restart, unsuccessful. Attempt again under new name. Recommend erasing father subplot. Father subplot. I didn't even know what that meant. Except, I'd been thinking about my dad a lot lately. We were close, weren't we? Weren't we? I drove home in a daze. The folder with father subplot still sat on the passenger seat, and I kept glancing at it like it might change while I wasn't looking. My head throbbed with questions I couldn't even form into words. But one thing was clear. Calla knew everything, and she wasn't going to tell me voluntarily. When I walked through the front door, she was sitting at the kitchen table, calm, sipping tea like it was any normal Wednesday. She didn't look surprised to see me. In fact, she looked relieved. You found the unit, she said. Not a unit. The unit. I didn't speak. I just sat down across from her, that file still clutched in my hand. She looked tired. Not guilty. Just exhausted. Like someone who had been carrying a heavy secret for years and was finally setting it down. You weren't supposed to see any of it. Not in this cycle, she said quietly. But maybe that's a good thing. She explained, and I still don't fully understand how any of it is real, that I'd volunteered for this years ago. Some kind of experimental therapy program. Something about memory modulation, simulated relationships, trauma inversion. The language barely made sense to me. But what I gathered was this. I'd been trying to fix something broken inside me over and over through structured memory loops designed to trigger personal growth and self-recognition. Each time I failed, the cycle reset. Calla wasn't my wife, not really. She was a behavioral analyst embedded in the cycle to monitor my reactions, test my thresholds, and help guide me toward a breakthrough moment. I guess smashing a fake wall and finding a surveillance dungeon counted. She asked me if I wanted out. No reset, she said. No memory wipe. You can walk away. For real. We think you're ready. I didn't say yes right away. I sat with it. Thought about the fake memories that felt more real than anything else in my life. The pain, the joy, the grief over a father I might not even have had. The comfort of a dog named Baxter, who might have just been part of a script. But in all that confusion, there was something steady. Me. I wasn't a role. I wasn't a subject. I was a person who felt real things, even if the triggers were designed. And that mattered. It had to. So I said yes. They gave me a place to stay. Real documents. A new start. Quiet. No scripts. No tests. Just life. Raw and unfiltered. Now I live in a small town on the edge of a lake. I get coffee from the same shop every morning. I write things that aren't manuals. Sometimes fiction. Sometimes truth. I still don't know which parts of me were born from memory and which I invented to survive. But I don't care anymore. I'm living forward. And in a strange, twisted way, I think Kala saved me, even if it meant breaking me first.